welcome to Missed Checkpoints, the Video Game Book Club podcast. Today we're starting our discussion on Barkley, Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. I'm your host Marcus, and joining me today as always are the homies. First off we have Trevor.
What's going on?
And last but not least, making his triumphant return, we got Greg.
What up, what up?
What's going on, man? I talked a little bit. Just to backtrack a little bit, I talked a little bit to Greg about Half-Life, and he said the game is garbage, right? Or Black Mesa.
Wow. I mean, it started out like that way for me, but I think I warmed up to it as I got into it.
I think he had said he got to almost to the halfway point. I was trying to determine how far he got, but do you think you're going to finish it out?
Maybe. I'm not compelled to start it, but you never know. Maybe I'll get bored one day and I'm like, I'll just go ahead and finish it off.
Sounds like a no to me. That's your MO, man. I started it. Alright, well, for this month of October, we are playing my games, and so the first game we have today is Barkley, Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. So, Barkley, Shut Up and Jam Gaiden is a freeware RPG developed by Tales of Games Studios in January 2008. It is jokingly referred to as an official sequel to Barkley, Shut Up and Jam, an arcade-style basketball game that was released in '93 on the Genesis and SNES, and an official sequel to Space Jam, the '96 movie featuring NBA star Michael Jordan. The studio itself was formed by several members after meeting on an amateur game dev forum. The team was inspired after reading an awkward phrase on Michael Jordan's Wikipedia page about the fan debate whether or not the movie Space Jam was canon. And I guess they thought it was funny because it didn't specify whether it was talking about the movie being canon to the Looney Tunes series or just to Michael Jordan's life in general. The game was first developed on RPG Maker 2003 game engine, but was later ported to Game Maker 6.1. At the 2014 Awesome Games Done Quick event, the devs stated that they never played the original Shut Up and Jam game and created it after brainstorming ideas for an RPG that made them laugh. In the game itself, the player controls ex-NBA player Charles Barkley and a handful of secondary characters. A slew of ex and then current NBA players are also featured as NPCs. The game features The game features a combat style dubbed Babby system and was influenced by many commercial JRPGs. Enemies appear on the battlefield and attack the players. Once the battle is initiated, each player has a number of attacks and skills that they can use, and most require multiple or time button presses, similar to the Mario RPG series and Paper Mario. Players can be placed into healing, attack, and effect battle roles depending on their skill set. And in November 2012, Tales of Games announced a game sequel titled The Magical Realms of Tir Na Nog Escape from Necron 7. Well, let me rephrase that. The Magical Realms of Tir Na Nog, Escape from Necron 7, Revenge of Chuchtalain, the official game of the movie, Chapter 2 of the Hoops Barkley saga, through Kickstarter, and raised about $120,000 in a month. And the sequel was supposed to retain the original self-aware tone, but all the artwork was going to be created from scratch to avoid copyright issues. And then in June of this year, it was revealed that the majority of the developers had left the project due to poor management, and the project was moving slowly because only 2 people remained working on it, and they were working on it part-time. However, the team's official Twitter, @Tales of Games, last tweeted August 10th of this year, so about 2 months ago? They tweeted an itch.io link of the public quote-unquote janky demo for anyone that wants to play it. So they're still working on the game, but it's like I said, it's just a super small team that's doing it part-time. So who knows if it ever will be finished. So that is Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. I guess I'll kick it to you guys. Had you ever heard of this game before, Trevor?
I have not. It was my first time hearing about it when you submitted it while we were doing our list for this slate of games.
Mm-hmm.
And it was another one of those games where I had to look up the trailer and try to figure out what it was about. And I could obviously tell, it was made in like RPG Maker.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just has that look to it. And so I was just curious, like, how is this game going to play out? Like, I could immediately see the humor in it, too. Like, it looked very, like, homegrown type of humor. Very kind of inside joke-ish humor. So I thought it'd be fun to play. But I had never heard of it before. It actually reminded me of this little thing I watched on YouTube like years ago called Hip Hop RPG. Have y'all ever seen that?
I have not.
No.
It's kind of in the same vein, except it's more of just like an episodic, feature. It's not really a game. It's just like a little show that they made, and it's basically featuring like hip hop artists, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, a bunch of other rappers, and set in like this fantasy setting. And yeah, they I mean, it's that's basically what I thought of when I was watching the trailer for this game.
Okay. And what about you, Greg? Had you ever heard of this game?
Yeah, so like some years ago, I guess, I don't remember how long ago. I felt like it was in the early days of Twitch, but like I remember watching somebody stream this game and just kind of just dying at how funny it was. So that had been my only experience with it. I never like sought out to play it, but it looked pretty crazy. So I mean, I kind of had an idea what I was in store for, but I definitely didn't expect as much as what I had experienced in this game.
Yeah. So for me, I think I had heard about this game mentioned via like a Giant Bombcast. I've been listening to them for maybe the past 8 years or so, and they've maybe mentioned it a couple of times since I've been listening to them, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting, and I remember looking it up, and I was like, that could be cool. And I'm specifically now, when I'm making lists for us, I try to find games that I think are either interesting or genres that we haven't played yet. And if I'm not mistaken, do you guys know if we played an RPG yet? Because I didn't think we had.
No, I think I've tried to avoid RPGs simply because they can get up to like the 20 to 25 hour range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this was like a shorter game, obviously. This honestly could have been a bonus podcast, a bonus episode.
Yeah.
But I wanted to pick, I think specifically too, because I paired this with Blood in the Sand. I wanted to kind of like, I don't want to say jokey, but like not as serious games, but also like games that I felt like would be fun to talk about and shine some light on some of these games too. So, yeah. So that's kind of why I chose the game. And I'm glad that we did, because this game, I don't know, like, did you beat the game, Trevor?
I got to the second to last boss.
Okay.
And got stuck.
And you beat the game, right, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pretty short game. Do you guys know your final playtime?
Probably around 4.5 hours, maybe 4 hours, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like
mine was about 4 hours.
Okay, well, I was like maybe about 5.5 hours, maybe an hour longer than you guys. But yeah, it was a relatively short game, and I don't know, like, how do we want to talk about this? Do you guys want to talk about the combat, the the music? What do you guys want to start off with?
We can start off with the format first.
Okay.
Because it kind of be hard to talk about this game without people knowing exactly how the game is played.
Okay, so I guess really the story for this game, the setup is it's 2053, and basketball is dead. And actually, the game starts off before that. There's a warning that says the game you're about to play is canon, and then and then it says set in 2053, basketball is dead. In 2014, basketball was made illegal because of a powerful chaos dunk that was performed at a basketball game that inadvertently killed people. I think they said it was as powerful as a 125 megaton nuke. And basically, basketballers all over were massacred in the Great B-Ball Purge. And so now the game takes place in the post-cyber-apocalyptic Neo-New York. And you're playing as Charles Barkley, who's kind of he's the one that was blamed as the one that performed the chaos dunk, and he is kind of trying to lay low. He's constantly having thoughts about playing basketball. He's super remorseful because he's raising a son by himself because the dunk killed his wife. So he's like kind of beating himself up about it and said, "I will never perform a dunk again." And then at the same time, he's hiding out from. Do you remember what the B-ball removal department?
Yeah, I can't remember what was that the actual name? Or
I think so. I think it was called the B-ball removal department,
and it was and like Michael Jordan was
headed by Michael Jordan. And it was like, so I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a silly game with Charles Barkley in it. And then I think like you meet your friend. His name is Baltheus. Baltheus. I don't know how to say his name, but he is the great grandson of LeBron James. And from there, I'm like, okay, this game is gonna be wild. And like, I think the first scene, it's so funny because like I don't know how much you guys know about like basketball, or not even know about basketball, just like know about people and everything. But like Michael Jordan is actually considered like not a great person.
Yeah, he's
like,
kind of a dick to my
yeah, and so and then historically, you know, like Michael Jordan is considered the greatest basketball player of every time, and everybody is judged according to his standard and the standard that he set. And so there's a lot of great players in the 90s, Charles Barkley included, that never won championships because Michael Jordan prevented them from doing so because his team was so good. And it was just like super funny. Every time Charles Barkley interacted with Michael Jordan, he was like, "Jordan, you son of a bitch." and like every time, and just like knowing how Charles Barkley, like from watching like Inside the NBA, and just I've read a couple of his books, and I've like seen interviews with him and everything. Just like that, I don't think he really like in real life like is mad at Michael Jordan, but it is just funny to think about it. Like in this game, it's just funny to think about. And it's also funny because like freaking Michael Jordan is dressed up like Michael Jackson from what's the video?
Moonwalker.
Yeah, with the fedora and the suit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I knew the game was going to be a trip once like they brought him from the LeBron James's great grandson of Michael Jordan, and then like Charles Barkley's son, the one he's raising by himself. His name is Hoops with a Z.
And I don't know if you remember the part where apparently his wife was in labor for like 3 days, and it wasn't a child that came out; it was a basketball.
Yeah.
And then he emerged from the basketball.
And it's funny, like the priest of this game or the at the church is Larry Bird, and like I don't like I think there's at one point there's like these ruins like, and it's like the shrine or whatever of Dikembe Mutombo, and like there's like sarcophagus with like former basketball players like remains in it, and I don't know, dude, like I was really, really feeling the vibe, like all the hoops talk, I guess you could say. I was really here for it. And it even got more ridiculous, like the first person you fight or like the first bad guy is like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, he's like some kind of ogre.
Yeah. And then, I mean, they had like, this is very like internet-y humor. But I don't feel like I don't feel like it's corny or aged. Do you guys agree with that?
No, because I don't think it's like
it's like pre-memes.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily like accurate jokes to the point where you would have to watch something or listen to something in order to understand it. Mm-hmm. It's just absurdly funny.
Yeah, it's just like over the top and ridiculous, and like I honestly, like it's kind of a testament to the team because like this spawned from a awkward worded sentence on Michael Jordan's Wikipedia page, and this like knowing that this whole thing spawned from that is super impressive to me. You know,
like it's I mean, like you were saying, it's a vibe. It's just. There's just a certain amount of jank to it, and it's like the jank plus the humor. It's like the perfect recipe, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, like Trevor said, like it doesn't necessarily reference stuff that you need to have knowledge of before. Like you cannot know who Joanna Man is, and still like. It's just a character, but I think it makes it more funny. Like if you do know like a little bit about the character, you're like why is Joanna Man here? Or like the character, the Ghost Dad.
Yeah, like why is that even?
Oh my god!
The Ghost Dad is the ghost of Dr. Cosby, aka Bill Cosby, and freaking the dude that heals like. The illnesses in this game, like the status effects, instead of it being like poison and paralysis and sleep and like what are they? They're like glaucoma,
diabetes,
Parkinson's, and
the only joke. Now that I think about it, the only joke that might be a little corny and that it's still kind of like an old thing was like the Wilford Brimley. Like,
bro, but that cracked me up too. So it was this dude that like apparently in the game there was follow me on this tangent, guys. So Michael Jordan gets the jump on Barkley and the crew. He infects his son Hoops with diabetes type 2, the kind you can't heal. And he has Barkley and company has 2 hours to find this guy that knows more about diabetes than anybody in the world, and he's just so happens to be within the 2-hour radius or whatever. So you have to get to him, and there's a cult that supposedly like meets outside his doors or whatever. And you have to figure out how to get to him or whatever, you know, RPG stuff ensues. And they name him as Yelmrib, something like that. And it completely went over my head. I don't know, did either of you guys
if it was a reference, I didn't get it.
Nah, you didn't get it either, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, when you get to him, you're like, Yelmrib or whatever, you know, it's me, I need your help for my son Hoops. And he said, "Don't call me Yelmrib. That's what others call me. Call me Wilford Brimley. That's my actual name." And I'm like, Wilford Brimley, where do I know that name from? And then when I saw his character portrait, I was like, are you serious? They put the "I got diabetes" guy in this game.
My man was on a machine it looked like a contraption from like I don't know, like from some Saturday morning like Power Rangers thing of like, why are they stuck to this? And that's how he was getting insulin.
Yeah. And he was taking all the diabetes from everybody else, and he was sacrificing himself for everybody else. So yeah, what else was another?
There was like another reference in that whole area that I didn't pick up on, but you notice in that area, every time you go to interact with something, it gives you the same 4 choices. It's like
examine, take, use.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like, I don't know, but that was like the only section in the game that ever happened. So yeah, like, I'm sure there's some reason as to why they did it. It's just that was just over my head.
And one other thing, there was a couple of other like just really silly things, like did you guys? So there was a couple of like sections that were side missions. Or side areas. Did you guys go into the mines with the genies and the dwarves?
No, I didn't do that.
So basically, there's these dwarves that were forced to work these mines, and they were the same species as one of the guys in your party. The what was his name? Balthazar? No, that's not right. One of the characters. Right. One of the characters on your the Cyber Dwarf. One of the characters in your squad, the Cyber Dwarf, he was a dwarf that got badly injured in because of the Chaos Dunk, and so in order to save his life, they had to graft new skin on him.
Oh, that's the thing they told you not to look at his face or whatever.
And his entire skin was basketball, like synthetic leather. Like basically, he was basketball was grafted on, and that was his skin. And so it was his race of people or his species, dwarves, that were being and they were basically being enslaved by these genies that come out of lamps, genies. And so the genies were talking really recklessly, like that they're slaves, and like, you know, why would we ever pay them and things like that. And like the whole point of that little section is you have to talk to them and you have to help them come to a truce or like a treaty at the end. So it's a beneficial relationship for the both of them. And it was saying like the dwarves were falling out because they needed 2 things to keep them going, and it was rubies, which was a form of payment that they weren't getting paid, and they lived off of Dunkaroos. And so they were like passing out because they were so weak because the genies were feeding them vitamin C instead of Dunkaroos. And like Charles Barkley didn't understand what it was, so Hoops had to explain to him what a Dunkaroo was. And then there was another, like the Shrek mono. Did you guys get that?
Nah, so I must have missed. That must have been another side one.
Did you get that, Trevor? It was like a legitimate article of clothing that you could put on for your character, and it was a good item. But like its description said, it's a regular kimono with Shrek printed on it. and once you equipped it, you got 2 items when you got it. You got the item and you got a picture, so you could always look at it, and so you could pull it up and see. It was literally like they did a graphic of a kimono with Shrek printed on it, and it was silly. And I guess did either of you guys go to the basketball dimension?
I don't remember that part.
It was at the very end when you defeat Michael Jordan on the basketball court, and then they make a mention like play your flute or whatever.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't do that. I think I skipped past that. But
so that part was cool. It was another little side area because you play your flute and it plays the Georgia Brown song.
Oh. I think I saw that in the playthrough I was looking at.
And then you go to this basketball world, but the way they transport you, which we're going to talk about the references or the tropes, but like they do the swirling thing. They play it like how the flute happens or how the flute works in Super Mario Bros. 3. So like you're literally transporting to another dimension, and you get there and they have these ridiculous like things. So they have a basketball farm or like ranch where you feed, train, and work out baby basketballs to help them grow bigger, like so as pets. They have a dating service, which Hoops is too young to date. I think they said Balthios was too caught up in his magic, and Barkley was too enamored, or like he wasn't going to date because his wife was widowed. So you can choose to go on a date with the cyber dwarf, and they start asking him what is your preference in women or whatever, and he's like. So the first question is, all right, excellent. What traits in particular are you looking for a partner? His response, apple bottom. And the guy was like, anything else? That part. Anything else? He said, only apple bottoms. And I was like, my man. Yeah, so like, I don't know, like there's so many like hilarious references. The dialogue in this game is silly. Like, one of my favorite things is you save at a gas pump, and the gas pumps are basically like they're like I looked it up and they are almost verbatim forum posts from the internet, and so it's funny in this world, in this game they call video games vidcons, and let me read one. It would be no surprise. So this is what happens every time you go to save. You hear this. Well, not this one. Each one has a unique quote that it always just cycles out or spurts out, and so you see this every time you go to save. It should be no surprise to anyone with a passing familiarity with vidcons that Pocky is the ideal food to snack on when playing mentioned object. Although playing is an inappropriate word because you experience rather than play a vidcon. I shall use playing for the sake of simplicity. For those ignorant to the intricacies of this fine Japanese cuisine, imagine a delicate stick of sweetened bread with the width and length of a chopstick. Its tip coated in the richest chocolate imaginable. The bold flavor of the chocolate is complemented by the small nuts that caress the tip, creating a culinary juxtaposition of sweetness and saltiness that can only be hatched in the mind of a chef versed in the subtle paradoxes of Eastern cooking. They are light and easy to eat and hold, useful for vidconning on the go, and their sugar content add that extra boost for late-night vidcons. Therefore, Pocky has garnered itself the precious title of Ultimate Vidcon Snack. Perhaps the only drawback of Pocky is its limited availability in the West, although this cannot be attributed to the snack itself, but the infuriating baboons that think they are running grocery stores. Like, every single one was hilarious to me.
It's basically like comparing like Western culture and
games.
Yeah.
Western culture and games. Let me read one more. Did you guys have any that like stood out to you?
I don't remember the exact quote, but like there was one that was talking about Western RPGs versus Japanese RPGs. There was another that had something to do with, I want to say, Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
There's some good ones, though.
He was like, okay, console video games, or vidcons as I call them, the ultimate medium of expression, able to convey any emotion ranging from hatred to love, loyalty to fear, all in front of our eyes. And with lovingly crafted art, music, and the ability to control the action, vidcons are the ultimate combination of the high arts. While I tend to play the stoic, I will be the first to admit that vidcons have driven me to cry, to scream and shout, to feel actual hate, Such is the power of this force beyond our wildest reckoning. And here I am before you to tempt the tongues with the taint of such a tantalizing topic. And the Japanese, the true geniuses behind the world of VidCons. Pah, I throw my scorn upon such incompetence of the West, who would mock the true art of Japanese with games such as Baldur's Gate and Madden. Perhaps it is the West is not as intelligent as the East, but this is a matter of another day. Japan has given us such masterpieces as the Final Fantasy series, Star Ocean, Wild Arms, and of course, Ark the Lad. Yes, some of the finest VidCons in the world were created by Japanese. I come to you today to ask you in all earnesty, what is your favorite VidCon? I will reveal mine after the grand debate has illustriously begun, but not before the final poster falls victim to my plot of discussion.
There was another one like towards the end of the game where you, in order to save, you have to answer his questions, and it's like one of them was like what's the greatest game ever made, and like the choices was like one of them was like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Madden. I'm trying to remember all the games, but it was pretty good. That was another good one.
And like I'm trying to, let me see if I can pull it up. There was a reference on the official website or the wiki, and it was like the tropes that they have. And if you look at, it's like just all the different references and things to other, either between the dialogue, the imagery that they show, or even game elements. Like I said, you play the flute. The song is called Georgia Brown, which is the theme song of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
The little whistling. And then when you play the flute, you get the same effects as if you were in Mario Party, Super Mario Brothers 3, where you're transporting to a new world, and then everybody there is like Tracy McGrady is there, Grant Hill, Chris Webber, Carmelo Anthony is there. There's an arena there where you have to fight, just as Charles Barkley solo, you have to fight these enemies to progress further on, and you fight the champion who's 10 times, he's been the champion for the past 10 years, Kevin Garnett, who's like one of my favorite basketball players, and you have to fight him. And there's that dating sim part that I was talking about that you do with the Cyberdwarf. There's the
How have we not brought up Vince Borg yet?
Vince Borg,
Bruh.
Vince Carter / a robot. He's a cyborg Vince Carter.
And like anytime somebody says the one, he starts like having flashbacks
To his mission, yeah. And then
Why was he so OP though?
right? And I don't know. There was the references to this is not necessarily good, but their future food that had like protein paste and high C ecto coolers as healing items. They had a lot of like crazy acronyms,
Steroids to revive.
Yeah. The acronyms like Final Gun, Blood Moses, Liberty, Fate. A lot of, I don't know, man. There was a lot of references, and like it was really cool to like catch things. Like I know I probably didn't even scratch the surface of all the references they had in this game, but it was really, really rewarding to play, I guess you could say.
I'm trying to think of are there any other games like this that I guess what I mean by that is like that have so much like references and kind of jokes in them like that. I'm pretty sure there's something I just can't think of it off the top of my head though. But I don't know if anything takes it this far.
I definitely nothing mainstream, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like it has to be something that's fan made. Maybe and we just played a fan-made game, but it was completely self-serious,
Yeah.
So I can't even think of anything. Can you, Trevor?
That's sort of like a parody, or
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, this is me just throwing something out there, but like maybe the Leisure Suit Larry games anything like this, or like the Conqueror's Bad Fur Day? Like those are references to like raunchy things, in video game form, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything.
Nothing that I've played. I'm sure there was something on like the Xbox Arcade, like where you could put indie games and stuff on there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I did forget about that.
I'm pretty sure there's some jank stuff out there that's kind of like this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you said earlier, this game was made in RPG Maker, which I have a copy of RPG Maker, and I mean, there's tons of assets that you could use, and you could basically just create your own game without even knowing how to really program or how to do any of the art. And so you could easily just put all of your own humor and dialogue into it and create your own game like this.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it. There's definitely gameplay stuff in here that I think is good, but I like just on the humor. I think this is probably I want to say the funniest game we've played. And,
Yeah, hands down. Yeah.
Like, because the only games that I can even think of that were like Phoenix Wright and maybe Catherine, but those are more like awkward humor. Like, this situation is so ridiculous,
Yeah.
Like, this game was outright just like funny. I think Grim Fandango also tried to be funny. I don't necessarily think it stuck the landing in the same way the other two games did, but I think this is like legitimately funny. And like I said, like I did not feel like this game really showed its age. Like, I mean, this is at this point 11-year-old game, almost 12 years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that it was made in 2008.
I mean, I think the only way, and this is like me as a basketball fan, is like, oh, like none of these players are active players, or like a lot of these players, like they used a lot of retired players, but even the players that they were like Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, like you wouldn't have pulled those out the blue in 2019.
Yeah.
And
especially like with the Bill Cosby reference, I knew this had to have been like
yeah.
prior to 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, Juwan Man showing up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even still, like it wasn't like I don't know. Like the one thing I do like is like I don't think nothing in here felt mean to any of the people. Like I felt like it was maybe I feel this way. Maybe you guys don't feel this way. But maybe besides like Michael Jordan, like it didn't really feel like like even like Juwan Man, like they didn't mention anything like negatively about that or like the Wilford Brimley stuff. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, there's a joke about this thing, and I think that's why it doesn't feel like it aged poorly.
It seemed like more than anything they used the characters' names and likenesses more so than like trying to actually capture them.
Yeah.
They're funny without like being like very offensive to any of the people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like super accurate.
Yeah.
I guess we can. You guys got anything else to say about like the references of the game?
Nah, I mean there's too many to like get everything. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's a it's a deep cut, I guess, right?
And I guess we can say too. I guess the whole concept of the game or the plot is, basketball's been outlawed, and now you and your party have to figure out what is. There's been a string of mysterious murders going on, and you and your party have to kind of absolve in like the name of this person that's being implicated in the killings, while also trying to overthrow this organization that is like suppressing basketball. And as far as gameplay, can we talk about the combat?
Yeah, I mean, are you saying that as it's a bad thing or as
No.
Okay.
So, like, I guess, what is your experience? What is your guys' experience with playing like? I honestly don't know the difference between JRPGs and RPGs. Like, because at this point, it seems like RPG is just shorthand for being able to pick abilities. So it's like nothing is like a pure RPG, but there are pure JRPGs, and it's just like RPG elements are in like thrown into games nowadays, like willy nilly. So, like, I guess this game is. What is your experience with JRPGs?
Well, I think JRPGs have a little bit more of like an anime appeal to them.
Mm-hmm. There's like a specific aesthetic, and then a lot of people categorize, or I guess at the time, people categorize JRPGs with like being very long games, hitting characters, seeing numbers pop up, having to, you have a party of 3 or 4 people,
Classes,
classes, being able to equip skills, like things like that. There's like a lot of things that you expect when you put like the title or the label of JRPG on a game.
Okay,
I think now what dictates more of like a Western RPG is, I guess, adventure games have taken on RPG elements.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I would consider more of a Western RPG.
For me, I've always considered now like being able to swap out your gear and like being able to have a what do they call it, like a skill bar or a stat tree or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like a Mass Effect or like a Borderlands has RPG elements, So it's I don't know, like maybe this is just me, but I don't really see RPGs as like, this is an RPG. It's usually they throw the J in front. I don't see things that are labeled as like pure RPGs.
They could also just be like, growing up, you didn't play a lot of JRPGs, did you?
I mean, so like I played Pokemon, and that was really it. And then when I got older, I played like the original Final Fantasies. So like the first 4 Final Fantasies I played on Game Boy Advance. And this gives me heavy references, vibes to those games, which I really like those games, the first 4 Final Fantasies. And so this reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely.
Did you guys have like any standout RPGs that this reminded you of, or RPGs that you played growing up that...
I mean, I don't know. There's elements from like a bunch of RPGs. I want to say I can't remember what RPG it was. I want to say it's like Lufia or something like that. But that's where the little grid menu that you select attacks. I feel like that's where that came from. There's other little things like the Cyber Dwarf. When you attack with him, you have like a bar at the top that you input the commands, and that kind of reminds me of. I want to say like one of the characters in Final Fantasy III you had to input commands with. I want to say it was like Sabin. He had like suplexes and other things. You had to input the move once you actually attacked. So there's stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there's other things I'm missing too, but I think that's...
So just to catch up with the Twitch chat, Dante's in there. He said one of the differences between Western RPGs and Japanese RPGs is turn-based versus active. I guess more so the combat.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
So he's saying that, so like JRPGs are more turn-based?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. I think that only changed like maybe as like later on, because like Star Ocean was like one of the ones that tried to get rid of like turn-based. It was kind of like you could just run around and attack.
But yeah, Pokemon would probably be my best example of playing an RPG like this one, simply because I've played the majority of them.
I was just thinking too, I played the Mario RPG on SNES, and then the first Paper Mario, and then the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga as well. And I really... I like the interactiveness. I guess I don't know how else you say it. The needing to have timed button presses and mashing out stuff for your attacks, and I really dug that for the combat because it made it feel more like I was doing something, like I was affecting the number that I was seeing pop up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it was really cool. So, like, somebody like with Charles Barkley, his attacks were like pass, free throw, or jumper. And so, like, with the pass and free throw, you would get a bar, and you had to almost like a doing a free throw, or in a sports game, if you guys ever played sports games, where it's releasing the basketball icon when it's at the red circle. Like, you want to get as close to that as you can, because that will do the most amount of damage. And then for the jumper, you had to, like, jump and release the ball at the height of your jump, but depending on what you could jump straight up, you could do a fadeaway, which is jumping backwards, or you could do a floater, or like jumping towards the enemy. And depending on what you did, like I think they said just a straight up jumper gave you the most. You had the most amount of damage. Jumping forward was the most amount of accuracy, but your guard went down. And then jumping backwards did the least amount of damage, but your defense went up, or your guard went up. So that was really cool. And then I think, like, with your son Hoops, he was a shooter, but like
for real
shooter. Yeah, he had a gun. So like his were like he had rapid shots, so he could shoot like a bunch of he could target multiple or like he could shoot 6 shots, and you could target each bullet to whichever enemy. Then he had one that you held a trigger down, and a reticle went to the enemy, and you had to release it when it was over them. And then there was like a mega shot or something like that, where it was another timing thing where you had to release the bar when it hit before it got to the target. If you went after the target, you would do no damage, and then the further away it was from the target, you did less damage. So I mean,
how did you find out about all this?
What you mean?
Like, just
yeah, so if you scroll, okay, so if you select the attack, the non-magic using attacks, then you could scroll on with the number or the D-pad. I don't know the arrow keys, and you could scroll to the right, and so you could see it explained everybody's attacks and like what they did. Like when you were that character, it explained like this is how you do this thing with this character. The only one I never figured out was the Cyber Dwarf. I never landed a finisher.
Really?
Yeah, I never landed a finisher.
You have to like stop early and then do the finisher. Like, so you would have to do like, how many attacks were you doing when you were?
So I the problem was I didn't know how big the finisher thing was.
Oh yeah.
So I never left enough space because I was trying to get as many hits in while leaving enough in. But even like anytime I tried to do a finisher, it just ended early. So I knew it wasn't enough space. So I just kind of was like, F it. I'm just going to try to do as much damage with them as I can with his normals instead of trying to do a finisher.
To be honest, the finishers are only good, or I mean, I guess they were good sometimes, but like the finishers just did
like debuffs.
They debuffed them, yeah. So it's like, I mean, you could either just keep attacking if you wanted damage, but like if it was an enemy that maybe had more health, maybe you want to debuff them.
Gotcha.
So.
And then I really like the abilities too. So like, I mean, like we were just saying with the Cyber Dwarf, he was like a monk. It's like the class he'd be because he did melee attacks, and all his abilities were to buff or buff your teammates or debuff the other team, the enemies. Charles Barkley's magic attacks all had to do with like basketball abilities. So one was like there were multiple dunk ones that were like NBA Jam style, like him like just flipping and doing dunks.
The double
everything
team.
Everything Hoops had was like freaking using his gun, like shooting just a ton of people. And then with the what was the guy's name? I forgot it. Balthios, or LeBron's great grandson, he was like a more traditional mage. So his like actual physical attacks were pretty weak, but his magic abilities were pretty strong. I don't know. I really dug the combat in this game because, like, I mean, I'm here for like old Final Fantasy style combat where it's like, you know, you have your different classes and it wasn't as technical. There wasn't like a front row, back row type of situation in this game. But it definitely, as far as spells and having to maintain BP and dealing with buffs and debuffs, you know, or the status effects and all that stuff, reviving teammates, and, you know, somebody is the designated healer, this person is the designated, like, this is the heavy hitter and all that. Like, I definitely was getting heavy vibes with that, and I really dug that it was a lot more interactive than those games typically are. At least the original ones were.
We still hadn't even talked about the music. I just thought about that.
Hey, well, you guys got anything else to say about the combat, or?
I was expecting.
It was.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, it was good. I mean, I wouldn't say like it was the best part of the game, but it never was a nuisance. Like, I never felt like. I mean, that's one trope that you end up running into in some JRPGs where there's a lot of random battles, but like this game didn't have it. Like, it was the enemies were on screen, so you're aware of where they were at, and if you ran into them, they didn't respawn or anything. So it was like you didn't get stuck in like, oh well, I'm just trying to accomplish this one thing, now I gotta fight, you know, a bunch of, you know, random battles. But yeah, I mean, it never felt like it was super difficult, you know, but it was enough of a challenge that you didn't feel like you were bored playing.
Yeah.
I think one thing that contributed to that too is there wasn't a need for grinding in the game.
Right.
As long as you were going around and fighting the enemies, it didn't seem like there was an overwhelming number of enemies or enemy encounters. So as long as you were fighting enemies along the way to the next area, you were getting enough experience to level up and be high enough to face the next boss or the next area. But yeah, what I was going to say earlier was I was just watching some of the gameplay. I saw a lot of Charles Barkley's moves, and I thought each of the characters was going to be more basketball oriented, and I'm glad it wasn't, because it showed like a lot of creativity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought it was all going to be like basketball players, you know, just doing different basketball moves and
attacks.
Yeah. So I'm glad they didn't go that route, and it made it even funnier. But one thing I did notice is that this game had quick time events, and that caught me off guard.
Yeah, that was like my least favorite part.
Like, it literally gives you like not even 2 seconds, 1 second to hit the key. And before, even at the first one that you get to, it tells you to hit like the action key or the back key. I didn't know which one was which.
Exactly.
Because there's no tutorial or anything before you start playing.
Yeah, it was like you had to. It was quick tip twitch, like down, up, action, you know, and like that, and like it was pretty brutal because like if you got hit twice, you immediately died and had to restart the thing over. And so I did not like the quick time events sections of the game. I think that and that sugar, the diabetes cave were my two least favorite parts in the game. I don't know if you guys felt that way.
Oh, you were talking about that cave where you had to stay away from the sugar?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it just, like, when you die, especially, like, the quick time events and that in particular, having to start the entire sequence over again was just never fun.
Is that like a reference? I feel like that was a reference to something that was in like a Pokemon game or something. I might be wrong, but
I'm not sure. That's a Trevor question.
The cave?
Yeah.
Like, which part exactly did you think was
the fact that you were in a cave and you had to like navigate around something? If you got too close, it you know, it would either kill you, or I mean, I guess in that game, I think it was you would just take damage. But
the only thing I can remember was like there were certain caves where if you didn't have the move flash in order to lighten the cave, you were basically wandering around in the dark. And the first set of games, Red and Blue, was, I think, the most notorious for this because you were literally in the pitch black. But I think in later games, you at least had like a light around your character so you could see yourself but not your surroundings. But
Gotcha.
I can't think of anything that was similar to this cave.
And I'm trying to think. Was there any standout sections for you guys that you really liked?
Definitely the Michael Jordan boss fight was pretty good. Might be one of my favorites. I mean, there's a lot of moments. I think most of them we kind of went over, but I mean, for sure, like if we were just talking about like battles and stuff like that, I think that boss fight was pretty good.
The Vince Carter one, when you fought him and Michael, or just the last one where you fought Michael?
The last one where you fought Michael.
Okay. Yeah, that one, especially because the Georgia Brown song came on.
Yeah.
And because they kept mentioning, and I had no idea. When I finally heard it, I started busting out laughing. There was another part. I really liked when the you split up, the four of you guys split up, and each of you had to do a section of that temple, and like so each one was unique to the character. And so not all of them were necessarily battle focused. So like, well, I say that, but like Ball Theos, his section was battle focused, the mage, and then the cyber dwarf, he had to throw the sand over in the black pit to try to find where the platforms were.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the puzzle that Hoops had to deal with the statue's eyes lighting up going down the hallways. It was just like a good change of pace where it was like, here, like solve these puzzles or whatever, and it's not necessarily combat focused or anything like that. So I dug that.
Yeah, it was always surprising when they added a different variety of gameplay in it.
Yeah. I don't know, like I just,
especially for how short the game is.
If you told me how short this game was and just what it was, there's no way you come up with this game. If that, like, this is the game you imagine. If I told you all the stuff that happens, you know, where it's like, oh, they freaking have Michael Jordan as an enemy. Bill Cosby's a ghost. Vince Carter is half man, half cyborg. LeBron James' great grandson is in here. Wilford Brimley's in the game. There's jazz effects that are like diabetes and glaucoma and Parkinson's, and like you tell me that and I think like that game sounds like a mess. And you know, and like this, I felt like this game like
it shouldn't work, but it does.
It works really well. Like on top of that, it's not like, oh, this game is passable. Like I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, how many games is behind this game? Is what I'm looking at on my list.
So something I just got after what you said about Vince Carter being half cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his nicknames is Half Man, Half Amazing.
Half Man, Half Amazing. Yeah.
Like that literally just came to me.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. And I mean, and we haven't even talked about the music. Like,
I'm just like going through the folder now because all the music is MP3s in the folder. I'm just going back, just listening to it right now.
And you even like, yeah, like in the earworm too, right? Where it's like some of that stuff. Like I was out of town this weekend and I had the intro music, not the theme song, but like the intro music from the house just on a loop in my head. And I don't think the music is like, it's catchy. It's catchy, like RPG looped music. And so it's not necessarily like, oh, this is the best music in a game I've ever heard or whatever, but it's really catchy. And also just the fact that they like they use the Quad City DJ song and just put like as the theme song, and then the Georgia Brown song like as jokes too are like hilarious to me.
Like I was just thinking about this. Has anybody ever played Blue Dragon? Just going through.
Yeah, I played the first disc.
Okay, so you remember the boss battle music in that game, right?
A little bit.
Okay, like you should go YouTube this after this is over and like listen to that, and then listen to the boss battle music from this game, and it's almost like they were trying to reference that and like make a play off that by what they put in this game.
I don't think they can. They could have. I mean, because I thought Blue Dragon came out like 2007, so it was like relatively close to this.
Maybe.
Yeah, Blue Dragon came out 2006, the very end of 2006. So
yeah,
maybe they like heard some things, but yeah, like I don't know. Like the music isn't my favorite part in this game, but I think it really works with what they did, and I'm a fan of the music. So take that for what you will. Is there anything else that we're missing?
I think that's it.
How often did y'all upgrade weapons?
Every time.
Really?
Yeah, if I had some... I mean, most of what I was doing was like stockpiling items just in case I needed them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had some extra money, then I would, if I could get some items or some, or get some new gear or whatever, I would drop some money into that. But I think I was just making sure I had enough like healing and items to keep my VP up. So, or not VP, but BP.
Yeah, and I was pretty much the same as him. Just flip it. So like I would buy the items first, like the items first, the gear first. Excuse me. I'd buy the gear first, and then whatever remaining money I had, Neo shekels, I would use on items. And like even the gear was even like I said, there was the Shrek Mono. There was when I defeated Kevin Garnett, I unlocked a Mithril jersey, and there was a referee's uniform. There was Charles Barkley's weapons were like soccer ball, volleyball, basketball, Hellblade basketball. I think like ultimate wristband, ice bandage, like as your gear, goggles. I think on hoops I had face mask, and it said just like Rip would have, which is a reference to Richard Hamilton.
Yeah,
and I was just like, yo, like this, like they went all in, and I'm like so here for it. Like this game, I feel like this game is gonna be funny, but it's probably gonna be like a cheesy kind of corny. And like, no, this game is legitimately great.
I mean, it is kind of corny, but
it's very endearing.
I mean, it's our kind of corny, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. I can see, like, I'm saying to somebody, like, yo, you should play this game, and if they don't like basketball, or I don't think you need to like basketball, but like if they were just kind of like, I don't get it, what, like, I'd rather just play Final Fantasy, which I bet people have said, like, fine, like, just go play Final Fantasy. But like, if you have any interest in basketball or like just any sort of humor, I feel like you would enjoy at least an aspect of this game.
So just out of curiosity, I just had to look this up. So the boss battle music is the music from Blue Dragon. So they just stole it. That's pretty good.
Okay. Well, I guess interesting. What would you guys like? We'll say out of 10. What would you give this?
It'd be like a 8 or a 9 for me, like probably.
I think I would say probably about an 8. And like, part of me is like, I wish this game was longer, but then I don't think it would be nearly as good, you know?
I think it would be too hard to stretch out that type of humor. For
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
A long experience.
Because the humor, it doesn't. The humor doesn't get old. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But also, like, there's enough of a seriousness, like they're actually building a environment and a setting. Because, like, when they were talking about the Blood Moses and stuff, and like some of that other stuff, when they were talking about the diabetes cult, it's kind of like they're using the word diabetes and they're talking about sugar. But if you literally just like Command F, take out diabetes and references to sugar, and put in some other word, you could easily just drop that into a real ass RPG. You know. What about you, Trevor?
I would probably give it. It's a solid 7.
Okay.
Like, I could probably give it a little bit higher. The only reason why I give it a 7 is just because the art. I know why it looks like that.
Yeah.
But I think it could have been
polished up, touched up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And still be humorous. Like, I like the idea that they, the stuff they did with like Vince Carter's
portrait.
Yeah, his little portrait, his little icon. I like the kind of stuff they did like that, but when it was, literally just like an image of them, an image of the character, and then you would see that kind of juxtaposed with the very badly done Michael Jordan image. That's when it kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah, for Kevin Garnett, they put on a headband. It was a sneering picture. Like, I know the picture. It was a sneering picture of him. And then all they did is they put a headband on him. And I'm like, Kevin Garnett never in his life wore a headband on the court. And then when you defeat him, like, one of his eyes is, like, shut. And there's blood, like, coming from his lip and his nose. And it's like... And then, like, the same thing when you die and that bead of sweat goes down Charles Barkley's forehead.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's very cheesy. And then, like, it's a quote, or it says Kurt Cobain for whatever reason. So it's just like... it's so silly, but it's just, like, it's just funny. Yeah, but I can see that about the graphics. I don't. It doesn't take away from me, but I can definitely think it maybe appeal to a couple more people if it was touched up.
Definitely adds to the charm of the game for me.
Definitely, it makes it seem internety, or it's like poorly done. Poorly done photoshops. Like that. Like I said, that Shrek Mono, man. I was cracking up when I saw that. Do you guys have anything else? I don't think I could figure out a question to tie into this game. I guess I can think of one right now if you guys... I thought of one if you guys want to have a question with no setup.
Yeah, go for it.
What kids movie or movie from your childhood would you like them to make a unofficial sequel of in video game form?
You could do Home Alone. Well, I don't know. That doesn't play. I mean, I guess that actually might make it funny. It's like trying to do like a new Home Alone.
Like like a shitty, not shitty, but like a like a poorly done, like this kind of style, like sprite based game that's like set on this movie from the 90s, and like we're assuming this thing is canon, and what is that world like?
Or like Beethoven or something like that. That might be kind of funny.
For me, I would say Good Burger.
Yeah, I
can see that.
You got anything, Trevor?
I can't think of one.
I think it's probably better for like live action, maybe, because then I don't know, but something about Good Burger just seemed right.
Well, because Good Burger is kind of based in reality, I guess, sort of like Space Jam,
but silly.
Yeah.
Space Jam ain't silly. It's loony, but
it's kind of more of like a what if scenario, and like the timeline changes. Like, what if aliens crash landed on Earth and started up this basketball game? You know, same thing with Good Burger. It's kind of what if
your burger chain was getting gentrified by Mondo Burger, home of the Big Booty Burger. So what did you say, Trevor? Did you say anything?
No, I'll have to give an answer on the next episode.
Yeah, to think about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else for Barkley, Shut Up and Jam, Gaiden?
Good game. I think everybody should play it or at least try it. It's not
free.
a very long game. It's free.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get the basketball references, I think the game is funny in itself already. It kind of transcends that you would still get something out of it, I think.
Okay.
And I think more people should make games like this because, you know, there are resources out there like RPG Maker and Game Maker where you don't have to have a whole lot of programming skills or art skills, and you could create something like this yourself and incorporate your own humor and tell your own story in it. So I think it would be good inspiration for people to just kind of get into gaming.
I think this is a fantastic, I don't even want to say proof of concept because this is an actual game, but just like the type of stuff that you could see at like a, what do you call it? Like
a game jam?
Yeah, like a game jam where literally the idea of this game came from a poorly worded sentence on a Wikipedia page spawned this entire game. And that is so creative to me, and the fact like we kind of said that it actually in a weird way it worked, and it worked really well. So like this is a really good like example of like, you know, like you can come up with a game out of anything almost, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg, you there?
Oh yeah. Okay, so we did get a question. I just lost it. Hold on. Okay. So Dante wrote in and asked if a DLC episode was made, which NBA characters would it star, and how would it carry on the plot?
Ooh.
I'm guessing he means if it were made today.
Yeah.
So you could consider, I guess.
So I can't really answer that because I don't even
players.
keep up with basketball now. I mean, I guess I know some players, but like I don't really.
I feel like it would have to be and this would go along with their humor. So if you know somebody that works at Tales of Game Studio, if you know one of those two people, send them this. It would have to be LeBron James because this summer he's filming Space Jam 2, so they could say Space Jam 2 is canonically after Space Jam 1, but the DLC is a prequel to this game. So it's like the thing that happened between the original Space Jam and before this Barkley, like that little time period. So basketball is still around and thriving. It's not banned yet, but it's LeBron and his son, or maybe even his son and his grandson, and like seeing their interaction and like showing him LeBron, like showing him Space Jam 2 and telling him like LeBron was the greatest and you've come from greatness and all this stuff. And then him growing up, the character Baltheos or whatever, knowing that, and then leading into this game.
Was Allen Iverson referenced at all?
No, he was not.
It's a shame. DLC.
Yeah, Allen Iverson DLC.
Could be a supporting character.
Mm-hmm. They could have some more coaches in because they only had Dick Vitale.
Oh yeah.
But they could have Shaq DLC. It's Shaq Fu. There you go. There you go. It's gonna be Barkley shut up and jam cross Shaq Fu Gaiden. I guess you have nothing, Greg.
Yeah, I'm lost on. I mean, you guys came up with some good ones. I can't even think of anything.
There was no Magic Johnson in the game either. He could have been in it.
That would have been good too.
But that could have actually been questionable. Like the things they talk about, maybe some type of status effect. Oh yeah, you could have something like Dante. He suggested something with Steph Curry. His 3-pointers started the second apocalypse. The sequel, I had the page pulled up. Let me see if I can re-find it, because it was going to be a little bit different. So it was the second, what they say, the second chapter of the Hoops Barkley saga. But it was, the year is 666X.
Wow.
A powerful youngster, wise beyond his years, awakens from a b-ball-induced coma aboard the mysterious dwarf space ziggurat Necron 7, held captive by the malevolent AI Chuchling. With no memory of who he is or where he came from, he adopts the identity of X114 Jam 9. And sets off into the post-cyber apocalyptic wasteland in search of the enigmatic cyber dwarf, the only one who can reveal him the terrible truth behind his forgotten past and make sense of his harrowing future. So I think it takes you play as Hoops, I think, who fell into some type of coma, and he awakens on the spaceship that you end the game on, but it's like 4,000 years in the future. And I guess he's trying to find the cyber dwarf. I guess those dudes live for forever. I don't know, but that sounds cool. Do we have anything else? Cool. Where can people find you at, Trevor?
Well, I do want to give a shout out to those who tuned in to our live stream. This is the first episode where we've live streamed on Twitch. So we hope to do more of these so that people can get involved. But you can find me personally on Twitch at Lyric Unsung.
Oh, wait, what's the Twitch for the thing? You didn't say that?
I guess we'll need to create one for missed checkpoints, because right now it's just on mine.
Okay.
So, if I do create one, I'll try to post it on the Facebook page so people can find it and follow it.
Okay. Could we just, this is just me asking, could we just stream from the YouTube?
We could try that. I just got it set up on OBS right now.
Gotcha.
So I haven't played around too much with it, but I just thought I'd try this out tonight.
Sure. It's a good idea. Where can people find you at, Greg?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Boombox Hero. Facebook is the same. And on Twitch, I did change my Twitch name, so it should be twitch.tv/Magnegro with a 0 on the end.
Okay. And you can find me at Facebook, on Facebook at Potato Salad. Did you add on that edit to the last episode, Trevor?
I did.
Thank you. Anyways, our next game coming up is my second game of the month. It is 50 Cent Blood in the Sand. Really, really looking forward to that. I think we've been trying to... I think since the very first list, I think that's been on as something that I wanted to play. So I'm really excited to finally get that game on the list and actually in. And I think we're going to try to have a guest on. I've reached out to a couple of people, and one person should be able to do it, and that we're going to try to have that episode recorded and released by the end of this month. So be on the lookout for that. And I think that's it. Oh, and Trevor, I need to get you on recording. are we doing our third bonus cast?
Yes, I'm going to try to finish the next bonus game by next weekend, so we can put up a bonus episode next month.
Bet, yeah. I set out the goal was to do 5, and we've done 2 and 2.5 basically. So we still got maybe 2 more months. Maybe we should put it out this month.
We could try
so that way we can do one in November and one in December too, just to meet the deadline. But yeah, be on the lookout for that as well. Hopefully we can get that knocked out this upcoming week. But yeah, with that, we are Missed Checkpoints and we're out. Peace.